Howdy, everybody. My name's Teresa McEnroe, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about enhancing virtual reality with materials and materials science. The first thing I want to mention today is the NIE Grand Challenges. And what the NIE Grand Challenges are is a select group of ideas or concepts or, for lack of a better word, challenges for engineers and engineering in order to make our world a better place in the 21st century. Now, their main idea and goal is here on the left, and it says the continuation of life on our planet, making our world more sustainable, secure, healthy, and joyful. And that's pretty much what we are trying to achieve by pursuing these grand challenges for engineering. So here on the right, you can see a list of them. Some of them include making solar energy more economical, managing the nitrogen cycle, providing access to clean water. So as you can probably come to the conclusion yourself, these are a pretty intense group of projects and ideas, but they seem like a really good way for us to make the world a better place here in the 21st century. So the one that my teammate and I have chosen is enhancing virtual reality. So our grand challenge is enhancing virtual reality, like I said. So the first thing when you decide on a project or challenge as an engineer is you want to understand why that should be done. So why should virtual reality be enhanced? What is the point? What could it help with? So some of the things that virtual reality could help with if it were to be enhanced and made a little bit better is training. And the best example I can think of for this is if you were an astronaut and you were on Earth and you had to learn how to do a certain type of task while you were in space, and you're going to get launched up into space soon to do this said task. There's no practice for that. There's no way for astronauts to practice how to be in space while they're on Earth. So, what you would need to do is either come up with a way to practice it on Earth, or possibly you could use virtual reality and do this in a virtual world. So we could use it to train astronauts, to train other people that will likely never be in that situation more than once, like fighter pilots or underwater welders, people who have jobs that are risky to be in that situation, and therefore making the training a little bit easier to do with virtual reality would be a big help. Um, Another thing that it could help with is interactions with others. So we have Zoom right now in the day and age of COVID, and what we could do with virtual reality is make these interactions a little more seamless. So we could use virtual reality to talk to somebody as if they were in the same room, and you could see them and interact with them as if they were in the same room as you. Another thing would be industrial design. So you can kind of see our guy in the little picture on the right is a construction worker. And so using virtual reality to improve industrial design would include having these buildings and blueprints and everything available for these construction workers and industrial engineers to see, so that they can see everything in the big picture. And it would just be really helpful for that. And then treatment, you could think of as medical treatment. So surgeons and doctors and dentists, they all have to do various types of medical treatment on their patients. And sometimes, like when I was talking about with the astronauts, they don't have a way to train for every situation. And so using virtual reality, it would allow them to have access to a way to treat patients, or a way to learn how to treat patients in certain situations. So this sounds great and all. I'm sure that you're sitting here thinking to yourself, wow, this sounds awesome and sounds amazing, that we could do all of these things with virtual reality. And yes, it is, but there are still a lot of steps that we need to take before we can get to this amazing way of engineering. So some of the aspects of virtual reality, I'm sure you probably know, are vision and sound. So virtual reality is based almost entirely off of vision. If you've ever had virtual reality glasses or a virtual reality headset, you know that it's almost entirely based off of augmenting your vision, what you see, how you perceive the world and what's around you and everything. So it pretty much takes care of that sense. And then we have sound, and a lot of virtual reality glasses or headsets have headsets attached to them or headphones so that you can actually hear whatever is going on in the environment. So if you are interacting with another person in the same virtual reality environment or something like that, you can hear them through your headset. And it just adds to the immersion of virtual reality. There's not much that we can do in terms of two of the senses, which would be taste and smell. And so we won't really talk much about that. But one of the things that we could change is our sense of touch. So we could mimic, or if we could find a way to mimic the sense of touch using some sort of stimulation, we might be able to create the effect of virtual, or we might be able to improve the effect of virtual reality on our everyday lives. So, what is material science's role in enhancing virtual reality? Well, if we're going along with that idea of enhancing the sense of touch or mimicking the sense of touch when using virtual reality, one thing that you would need to take into consideration is the resistance that happens when you come into contact with a virtual object. So, just like if you are going to pick up a pencil off of your desk, you're going to feel that pencil, or if you're throwing a ball, like you're going to feel the ball in your hand, and there's some sort of resistance against your hand. You're not just grasping air. In virtual reality, right now, all we pretty much have at that sense is just the sense of grasping air. So we need a smart material to be used in the glove as the glove's material or as an exoskeleton for the glove. And one possible class of smart materials that we have looked into is electrorheological fluids. So, what is an electrorheological fluid? It is a smart material that can change from liquid to nearly solid when exposed to an external electric field. So, what this means is that it is a fluid and all of its atoms are free to bounce around as much as they want, like a fluid would. But then, as soon as an electric field is applied, as shown in our small diagrams at the bottom, um, once there's a field with a field direction, our fluids will condense and they will become more like a solid. And the reason this is useful is if we could create a glove that implements these electrorheological fluids in sort of veins or an exoskeleton of this glove, when we grasp something in virtual reality, we might be able to mimic that feeling by causing an electric field to go through and surge through um, our electrorheological fluid, which would cause them to tense up and become more solid feeling. And so another reason this would be really interesting to use is because the change is reversible and it happens super quickly. So we could do it as much as we want. We could reuse the electrorheological fluid inside of our gloves, and we could just turn on and off the field direction. So I know this sounds amazing and all, and you guys are probably wondering, but Teresa, why are we not using this already if this is such a great idea? Well, there's a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of research that needs to be completed into electrorheological fluids. And it has so many applications, such as the enhancements of polymers. So a polymer is a composite material made up of other elements and materials. It's not just one basic element like iron. It's a composite of a lot of different materials. So it can be used, electrorheological fluids can be used to improve the mechanical properties of these polymers by strengthening the polymers and improving them by changing them on a molecular level. One thing we need to take into consideration, though, is developing these fluids. So we need to come up with applicable properties, sorry, applicable properties of these fluids for whatever goal or need that we have for them. So for food processing or for self-robotic components, the need of or the use of these electrorheological fluids might be different for each of these applications. And so we need to make sure that we have the correct properties of the fluids for these applications. And then we need to understand their effects and what they do. So while this seems like a cure-all to engineering, and while it seems like it's a really good way for us to enhance virtual reality, there still is a lot of work being done into researching these fluids, and there is a lot more that needs to be done. And I am really excited to see what our engineers will come up with. Thank you, everybody, and gig 'em.